The Online Student.
Designed for May 2026 session, IB Economics, Standard Level and Higher Level, Paper 2.
Samoa.
A1. Define the term absolute poverty. Text A, paragraph 3. 2 marks. Level 1. An answer that only states that it is being very poor or living in poverty without reference to a poverty line or inability to afford basic necessities. 1 mark. Level 2. An understanding that it is when people have an income, one of the following: $3 a day set by the World Bank in June 2025, previously below $1.90 or $2.15 a day, or any income level set by the United Nations or World Bank, or below the level required to meet basic physical needs, food, clothing, shelter. 2 marks. A2. Define the term informal employment. Table 2. 2 marks. Level 1. An answer that only states that it is working in the informal sector or unregistered jobs without mentioning the lack of legal or social protection, or that it is a type of employment relationship. 1 mark. Level 2. An accurate explanation that it is work for pay or profit that takes place without formal arrangements or protection, for example, without formal contracts, labor rights, or social security, whether in informal or formal enterprises. 2 marks. B1. Using the data in Table 1, calculate the difference in the unemployment rate between men and women in 2024. 1 mark. Using data for 2024 from Table 1, male unemployment rate equals 7.2%. Female unemployment rate equals 6.4%. Difference in unemployment rate equals 7.2% minus 6.4% equals 0.8%. A correct numerical answer showing 0.8% without working merits 1 mark. B2. Using the data in Tables 1 and 2, calculate the number of people living in urban areas having access to improved drinking water in 2024. From Table 1 and Table 2 for 2024, total population equals 0.22 million equals 220,000 people. Urban population share equals 21%. Urban access to improved drinking water equals 98%. Therefore, number of people living in urban areas having access to improved drinking water in 2024 equals 220,000 times 21% times 98% equals 45,276 people. Accept also 45,300 people and 45.3 thousand. A correct numerical answer showing 45,276, 45,300, 45.3K, 45.3 thousand without working merits 1 mark. B3. Using the data in Table 1, calculate the percentage change in the Samoan Tala US dollar exchange rate, WST per US dollar, from 2021 to 2024. 2 marks. From Table 1, 2021 exchange rate equals 2.55 WST per US dollar. 2024 exchange rate equals 2.70 WST per US dollar. Percentage change in the exchange rate, WST per US dollar, from 2021 to 2024 equals 2.70 minus 2.55 divided by 2.55 equals 0.15 divided by 2.55 equals 5.88%. A correct numerical answer showing 5.88% without working merits 1 mark. C. Using a demand and supply diagram for Samoan taro in an export market, explain how rising demand from Australia and New Zealand in 2023 to 2024, text B, paragraph 7, affected the equilibrium price and quantity of Samoan taro. 4 marks. Level 1. A correctly labeled demand and supply diagram for Samoan taro in an export market showing a rightward shift of the demand curve from D1 to D2 and a new equilibrium with a higher equilibrium price and higher equilibrium quantity. Or, a basic explanation that rising demand from Australia and New Zealand in 2023-2024 increases foreign demand for Samoan taro, which raises the equilibrium price and increases the quantity sold. 1 to 2 marks. Level 2. A correctly labeled demand and supply diagram for Samoan taro in an export market, showing demand curves and supply curves, with a rightward shift of the demand curve for taro from D1 to D2, leading to a new equilibrium with a higher equilibrium price, P2 is greater than P1, and a higher equilibrium quantity, Q2 is greater than Q1, and a clear explanation that increased demand from Australian and New Zealand buyers in 2023 to 2024, for example due to tourism or supermarket contracts, shifts the demand curve for Samoan taro to the right, resulting in a higher market price and a larger quantity of taro exported. 3 to 4 marks. Candidates who incorrectly label diagrams can be awarded a maximum of 3 marks. The use of P and Q on the axes is sufficient for a demand and supply diagram. A title is not necessary. D. Using a foreign exchange market diagram for the Samoan tala, explain how the changes in exports and imports of goods and services between 2021 and 2024, Text B, Paragraph 5, and Table 1, could help explain the depreciation of the tala against the US dollar. 4 marks. Level 1. A correctly labeled foreign exchange market diagram for the Samoan tala showing demand and supply for tala, with a shift that leads to a lower value of the Samoan tala. Or a basic explanation that because imports of goods and services are larger than exports over 2021 to 2024, more Samoan tala are being supplied to buy foreign currency than demanded by foreign buyers of Samoan exports, contributing to depreciation of the tala. 1 to 2 marks.
Level 2. A correctly labeled foreign exchange market diagram for the Samoan tala showing demand and supply curves with either a rightward shift of the supply of tala, S1 to S2, as Samoan residents sell more tala to pay for increasing imports, or a relatively weaker increase in demand for tala compared with supply, leading to a new equilibrium where the tala depreciates, more WST per US dollar, and a clear explanation that between 2021 and 2024, exports rose from a low base, but imports of goods and services remained higher and also increased, so Samoan importers need to supply more tala in the foreign exchange market to obtain US dollars. This excess supply of tala relative to demand helps explain why the tala depreciated against the US dollar over this period, i.e., the exchange rate in WST per US dollar rose. 3 to 4 marks.
Candidates who incorrectly label diagrams can be awarded a maximum of 3 marks. For an exchange rate diagram, the vertical axis may be price of the Samoan tala in another currency, typically USD or WST per US dollar. The horizontal axis should be quantity or quantity of Samoan tala. A title is not necessary.
E. Using a Lorenz curve diagram, explain what the change in the Gini index between 2021 and 2024, Text C, Paragraph 8, and Table 2, suggests about the distribution of income in Samoa. 4 marks.
A correctly labeled Lorenz curve diagram showing the line of perfect equality and a Lorenz curve below it indicating some income inequality. Or a basic explanation that an increase in the Gini index between 2021 and 2024 means that income inequality has risen in Samoa, and that income is more unevenly distributed. 1 to 2 marks. Level 2. A correctly labeled Lorenz curve diagram with the line of equality and 2 Lorenz curves, one for 2021 and one for 2024, where the 2024 curve lies further away from the line of equality than the 2021 curve, consistent with a higher Gini coefficient. And a clear explanation that the rise in the Gini index from 0.36 in 2021 to 0.38 in 2024, Table 2, suggests income has become more unequally distributed, with a greater share of total income going to higher income households, for example, urban formal workers in government, tourism, and finance, and a relatively smaller share to poorer households, relying on subsistence agriculture and informal work. This means the Lorenz curve for 2024 is more bowed out than in 2021, indicating higher inequality. 3 to 4 marks.
Candidates who incorrectly label diagrams can be awarded a maximum of 3 marks. For the Lorenz curve, the vertical axis should be labeled as cumulative percentage of income or wealth. The horizontal axis should be cumulative percentage of population. A title is not necessary.
F. Using an international trade diagram, explain how the 2025 U.S. baseline tariff of 10%, Text B, Paragraph 7, affects the export of Samoan goods and services to the USA. 4 marks. A Level 1 answer. A correctly labeled international trade diagram for the U.S. market for a Samoan export good, e.g. Samoan processed foods, showing a world supply curve, including Samoan exports, and a higher domestic price in the U.S. after the tariff, with a fall in the quantity imported. Or, a basic explanation that a 10% baseline U.S. tariff on Samoan goods in 2025 makes Samoan exports more expensive in the U.S. market, reducing U.S. demand for these imports and lowering the quantity of Samoan exports. 1 to 2 marks.
Level 2. A correctly labeled international trade diagram for the U.S. market for a Samoan export good, for example, Samoan processed foods, showing a world supply curve, including Samoan exports, and a higher domestic price in the U.S. after the tariff, with a fall in the quantity imported. And a clear explanation that, as the USA is the importing country, the 10% tariff raises the price of Samoan goods and services for U.S. buyers above the world price, so U.S. demand for these imports falls. This leads to a lower quantity of Samoan exports to the USA, and Samoan producers face reduced export revenues and market access, which can slow growth in the affected export sectors. 3 to 4 marks.
Candidates who incorrectly label diagrams can be awarded a maximum of 3 marks. The use of P and Q on the axes is sufficient for an international trade diagram. The world price line may be labeled as S World, SW, S Samoa, P World, PW, P Samoa, or any similar label indicating the horizontal line is the world or Samoa price or supply. A title is not necessary. G. Using information from the text data and your knowledge of economics, discuss the macroeconomic policies Samoa could implement to achieve stable economic growth and support SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, texts A through C, Tables 1 and 2. 15 marks.
Examiners should be aware that candidates may take a different approach, which, if appropriate, should be rewarded. Command term. Discuss requires candidates to offer a considered and balanced review that includes a range of arguments, factors, or hypotheses. Opinions or conclusions should be presented clearly and supported by appropriate evidence.
Possible macroeconomic policies and links to stable growth and SDG 11. Counter-cyclical fiscal policy and debt sustainability. Use fiscal policy to smooth fluctuations in real GDP, for example by increasing public spending or delaying consolidation during external shocks such as tourism downturns or natural disasters, while aiming to keep the fiscal deficit and public debt at sustainable levels over the medium term. Prioritize capital spending on climate-resilient infrastructure, roads, drainage, ports, electricity networks, and urban services, water, sanitation, waste management, that directly support more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable communities in Apia and peri-urban areas, consistent with SDG 11.
Monetary and exchange rate policy for stability. Maintain low and stable inflation, around 2 to 3% through cautious monetary policy, helping to protect real incomes of the poor and provide a predictable environment for private investment in housing, infrastructure, and tourism. Manage the Samoan tala's basket-based regime to avoid excessive volatility, supporting external competitiveness for tourism and agricultural exports while containing imported inflation from fuel and food.
Targeted public investment for SDG 11. Expand investment in climate-resilient urban infrastructure, flood-resistant roads and drainage, seawalls and coastal protection, resilient electricity and water systems, and improved solid waste management in and around Apia. Support affordable, safe housing and serviced peri-urban settlements through serviced land, basic utilities, and planning regulations that reduce exposure to landslides, floods, and sea level rise. Improve public transport and non-motorized transport infrastructure to reduce congestion, pollution, and emissions in urban areas, contributing to safer and more sustainable cities.
Supply-side and structural policies for growth and urban livelihoods. Invest in human capital, including education, vocational training, and health, to raise labor productivity in services, tourism, construction, and the urban informal sector. This supports long-term growth and better employment opportunities in cities. Encourage private sector development in tourism, construction, ICT, and urban services by simplifying regulations, improving the business climate, and implementing the National Industry Development Policy. See Note 1, supporting job creation and diversification of the urban economy. Support small and informal enterprises, for example through microfinance, business training, and access to infrastructure and markets, so that poorer households in urban and peri-urban areas can benefit from growth and improved services, helping to reduce inequality.
Note 1. The National Industry Development Policy and Strategy for FY 2024-2025 to FY 2033-2034 aims to transform its economy beyond subsistence, focusing on post-COVID recovery, diversification, and long-term resilience by fostering innovation, boosting productivity, enhancing infrastructure, building partnerships, and developing a skilled workforce, aligning with the National Pathway for Development. This 10-year plan targets specific growth sectors like tourism, agriculture, and emerging markets, creating jobs and sustainable opportunities by supporting private sector growth and export expansion. Climate, disaster risk, and blue economy strategies. Integrate climate and disaster risk management into macroeconomic planning and public investment decisions, including contingency funds and insurance mechanisms to reduce the fiscal impact of cyclones and floods that heavily affect urban areas. Promote sustainable use of ocean and coastal resources, tourism, fisheries, marine transport within a blue economy, see Note 2, framework, supporting growth while protecting coastal communities and ecosystems that are central to SDG 11 and long-term resilience.
Note 2. A blue economy refers to an economic system or sector that seeks to conserve marine and freshwater environments while using them in a sustainable way to develop economic growth and produce resources such as energy and food.
Trade-offs, constraints, and evaluation. Discuss fiscal trade-offs between higher public investment in urban infrastructure and the need to keep debt sustainable and maintain buffers against external shocks. Large capital projects may require concessional finance and grants. Consider implementation capacity and governance. Effective planning, procurement, and maintenance are essential for infrastructure to deliver stable growth and SDG 11 outcomes. Weak institutions or coordination can reduce effectiveness. Note time lags. Supply-side and urban investments support long-term growth and resilience, but may have limited immediate impact on unemployment or poverty. Complementary short-run support, such as targeted transfers to vulnerable urban households, may be needed. Weigh the benefits of a stable macro framework, low inflation, sustainable debt, adequate reserves, against potential costs if policies are too tight and constrain necessary SDG 11-related investment. Any well-argued answer that uses the Samoa case, reliance on services and remittances, trade deficits, depreciation of the tala, inequality, large informal sector, urban pressures, and climate vulnerability to propose and evaluate a coherent mix of demand-side, supply-side, and structural policies that promote stable growth and more sustainable, resilient cities can be fully credited, or any reasonable discussion.
Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe.